This is Mr. Vigil. He's the editor. I'm sorry.
I saw you on TV a lot. You will second Nancy Pelosi. Hey, you never know, right?
I was here already.
You're number 2 already. You're number 2 right now, right?
Number 2. That's
Yeah.
right. She was
Next
always
year, you
number
never know.
one.
You never know.
First, we got to get Hakeem Jeffrey.
Xanh đây và dạ xanh và đúng rồi. Sáu tiết một dạ.
Dạ, xin lỗi cô đã trẻ giờ cô cho phép đây đã bao nhiêu tuổi?
Năm nay là 44. Dạ. Dạ.
Right on our public train system, the T. So
I love Boston.
yeah. How often?
Jackie, you used to live in Virginia, right?
Oh, you did?
There.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, really? That's great. How long have you lived out here? Oh, decent.
Give it a few more minutes.
Nice to meet you. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
To have the minority whip, Katherine Clark, with us today. She's the number 2 in the party, and she's here to listen to our issues in our community. But let me just first read a brief statement that I prepared. On the heels of President Biden meeting with Vietnam President Tô Lâm, we gather today to discuss the tremendous and pending issues Vietnam still faces to be more free and a democratic nation. I express great disappointment in Columbia University for allowing Mr. Tô Lâm a forum to amplify his platform. Vietnam and its leaders must continue to demonstrate a great deal of progress to earn a place on the world stage. We, the United States of America, must hold Vietnam to having free and fair elections, freedom of press and speech, elimination of laws that curtail freedom of expression. Vietnam must have freedom of religion, and it must recognize independent religious organizations. There must be academic freedom there. There has to be a judiciary free from communist control. Due process is still missing in Vietnam. Laws that protect minorities and ethnic groups must be in place. Right for laborers to organize, and unfortunately, the list goes on. In Congress, I commit to doing the following: to work with the Vietnam Caucus on demands of the release of prisoners of conscience, work with the Congressional Oversight Committee on United States funding provided to Vietnam, I will facilitate an independent media outlet to broadcast in Vietnam, work with House members to ensure funding for the National Endowment for Democracy with appropriations for specific research work on promoting good governance and justice assistance in Vietnam, and to work to promote independent unions in Vietnam to enforce compliance with international and bilateral trade standards. So I look forward to hearing more from everyone at this table, but I would like to just yield a couple minutes to the whip here for some comments from her. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? I just want to thank all of you for being here, and I really want to thank Derek Trần for inviting me. He has not even been elected, and he is already such an advocate for the Vietnamese community here in California 45, but also around the country. And this is such a critical voice. And so when he asked me to come and hear about what has happened in Vietnam, where we've had successes, and the work that we very much need to continue to do, whether that is freedom of the press, human rights, freedom to organize. These are issues that are not only important to this community, to this diaspora, but to Americans as well. And we have so much to learn from the Vietnamese American experience, and so much that we need to still pay attention to in our relationship with Vietnam and our relationship in building a strong democracy here in America. So to have this opportunity to be able to hear your stories, your perspectives, is exactly why I'm so excited to elect Derek Trần. He is going to be a voice for this community in the halls of Congress, in the halls of power, where we need one. And he just went through his commitment, and that's not only a commitment to this community, but to his whole district, to continue to fight for democracy, the freedom of speech, the freedom to vote, the freedom to organize. And that is what is really fueling his campaign, his experience of his parents coming here as refugees, him being a veteran, building a life of great success here, which is the story of Vietnamese Americans, that we want to make sure that not only do we continue to work and recognize that, but that we bring the voices of the Vietnamese community to Congress. So that's why I'm here. I serve currently as the minority whip on the second in hierarchy in command behind Hakeem Jeffries in the Democratic caucus. And hopefully with your help, when we elect Derek, that'll be in the majority. And it is such a privilege, really a privilege to be here, to meet some of these prisoner of conscience, a prisoner, also someone who was detained for being a journalist. These are the stories we need to hear. These are Vietnamese stories, but fundamentally, they're American stories. And we are so grateful to all of you for having me today. I am so grateful to Derek for inviting me and to continue to be able to lift up these stories and inform our work in Washington.
Right. I think that I speak for most of the people here today, as well as for a lot of people, to escape communism in search of freedom. So we've resettled here in America. Thanks to the generosity of the American people, we've prospered. We have given back to our host country in many ways and many areas over the years, but yet we still yearn for the mother country, and we are still very concerned for the fate of our countrymen, because Vietnam is still not a free country. There is no such thing as a free press in Vietnam, and the citizens there lack some of the most basic rights. And that's the reason that we brought together our guests, journalist Liu Kai, as well as Mr. Michael Phương Nguyen, who will be here shortly to brief you and the team.
Những cái vấn đề vi phạm nhân quyền trong các cái nhà tù của Việt Nam.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you present here today to listen to our story, especially about the human rights in Vietnam, the conscious prisoner in the prison back in Vietnam. Those are really urgent matters to us, to this community.
Tổ chức 88 theo một cái tổ chức chuyên về giám sát về nhân quyền tại Việt Nam ấy, thì chúng ta có thể thấy rõ cái sự gia tăng đáng báo động về cái việc trấn áp các cái nhà hoạt động ở Việt Nam cũng như là các blogger và tù nhân lương tâm.
The Project 88 in Vietnam is a sign of how the communist government tried to oppress and persecute whoever want to speak freely. So this is a really big concern to our community.
Hiện nay thì đang có 413 nhà hoạt động đang gặp cái rủi ro trực tiếp vì các cái hoạt động về nhân quyền của họ.
Currently, there's about 413 activists are facing the risk of being persecuted because of their human rights speak up and they want to fight with the government.
Trong số đó thì có 187 người đang phải chịu cảnh tù đày.
Among those, 187 of them are prisoners.
Và điều đặc biệt đáng chú ý ở đây là số lượng phụ nữ bị đàn áp lên tới 106 người.
Especially the women who are oppressed, who are persecuted, there are 106 of them.
Đó thì hiện nay ấy, là có 80 nhà hoạt động thuộc các cái dân tộc thiểu số cũng bị truy tố và đàn áp nặng nề.
Among those members, 88 of the activists, they are minorities. They are also facing the risk of being oppressed and persecuted in Vietnam.
Và hiện nay ấy, ngày hôm qua mới xảy ra đó là những người như là Trịnh Bá Thư, Bùi Văn Thuận và Đặng Đình Bách là những cái nhà hoạt động đang tham gia vào một cái cuộc tuyệt thực tập thể ở trong trại 6 nhằm phản đối những cái điều kiện giam giữ hà khắc của trại giam.
Yesterday there was news about a few members. They are doing the hunger strikes in prison to object the harsh treatment in prison toward those prisoners.
Chính quyền Việt Nam thường cáo buộc những cái người này với nội dung là trốn thuế hoặc là tuyên truyền chống nhà nước, nhưng mà thực tế là họ là những người mà hoạt động về cái quyền tự do ngôn luận và cái quyền tự do hội họp.
The accusation from the Vietnamese government toward these individuals are they are tax invaders and also they are against the government. But in fact, they are just speak up their voice and they want to fight for the freedom of speech.
Thực trạng ở Việt Nam thì không chỉ dừng lại ở cái việc giam giữ và đàn áp những cái người bất đồng chính kiến, mà nó còn những cái vấn đề là cái điều kiện giam giữ khắc nghiệt, và từ cái việc là thiếu thốn chăm sóc y tế đến cái việc đối xử vô nhân đạo với tù nhân ở trong các nhà tù.
It's not just in prison, but the way that they treat the prisoner in prison is really, really bad. They were treated not like in the human way. So this is a really alarming issue in Vietnam today.
Và đặc biệt trong cái trại giam số 6 nơi mà tập thể các tù nhân họ diễn ra cái hoạt động tuyệt thực tập thể đó, thì trại giam số 6 này đã thực hiện một cái hình thức giam giữ gọi là được mệnh danh là chuồng cọp. Đây là một cái hình thức giam giữ rất là khắc nghiệt.
So especially in the prison they call the number 6 prisons, those prisoners they were put in jail with they call the tiger pen, with really bad condition for those prisoners.
Những người bị giam ở trong chuồng cọp ấy bị ngăn cản trong cái việc tiếp cận các cái nhu yếu phẩm cơ bản như là nước uống, thực phẩm và không khí sạch.
So those people in the so-called tiger dens, they have no access to clean water, to food, to the basic necessities that humans need.
Những người đang tuyệt thực tập thể ở trong đó họ cũng kêu gọi cộng đồng hải ngoại cũng như cộng đồng quốc tế lên tiếng hỗ trợ họ trong cái thời gian họ đang tuyệt thực này.
The people who went on a hunger strike, they are asking for the support from people in Vietnam, people in the US, all over the world and the international to support them in this fight.
Chúng tôi tin rằng với sự can thiệp của cộng đồng quốc tế, đặc biệt là từ những quốc gia đề cao cái quyền tự do dân chủ như là Hoa Kỳ, thì sẽ giúp nâng cao cái áp lực đối với cái chính quyền Việt Nam, buộc họ phải cải thiện cái tình trạng nhân quyền và thả tự do cho những tù nhân lương tâm.
So we believe that with the support from the U.S., from international governments, everywhere else, we will put pressure to the Vietnamese governments for them to have a better treatment to those prisoners and also release the prisoners of conscience in that matter.
Ngày hôm nay tôi cũng mong rằng sự quan tâm của ông bà về góp phần tạo nên những cái thay đổi tích cực, mang lại một cái tương lai tự do và công bằng hơn cho người dân Việt Nam.
So we hope that with the meeting today, you hear our story, we'll get your support for this fight to have a better life, a better treatment for people in Vietnam to have the freedom of speech and the human rights and have a better life.
Xin cảm ơn.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Phải nói là từ ngày tôi ra tù đến nay là 3 năm. Tôi chưa có trả lời báo lại nào hết về cái cuộc phỏng vấn về bởi vì khi tôi bước xuống sân bay là tôi được tin ba tôi mất và phía chính quyền Việt Nam không cho tổ chức tang lễ. Tôi về phải chịu tang cha và tôi đã trở lại bình thường sau 3 năm mà tôi phải tự dân chịu đựng những cái nỗi khổ đau. Cái điều tôi muốn nói hôm nay là
Angel, let's pause for our translation.
It's been 3 years since I got released from the prison. I've never participated in any press, any conference. The reason was at the time I got off the airplane when I got released, I got the news that my father passed away. And the Vietnamese government, they did not allow me to hold funeral for my own dad. And with those pain and suffering, it takes me time to heal. And it takes me that long for me to be able to live a normal life. But still the pain, I still have that pain inside.
tôi bị bắt trong một cái trường hợp rất là oan ức. Tôi không có được một tổ chức nào ở bên này chỉ đạo tôi về nước và làm cái gì cả. Nhưng mà khi họ bắt tôi tại nhà và qua khám xét thì họ không có một cái bằng chứng gì để buộc tội tôi cả. Nhưng mà họ tung lên mạng là bắt tôi tại tao đàn, có vũ khí và tài liệu trong người. Rồi từ đó phúc đại ra tôi là cái tội khủng bố. Nhưng khi họ
So when they arrested me, it was so unfair injustice. I never get any order from the U.S. that I come back to Vietnam to do any kind of activity against the government. But they arrested me and they do the search at my home. They didn't find any evidence, anything. But they post on the media that I was arrested at Tao Dan Park with weapons, with materials against the government, and because of that, they accuse me as a terrorist against the Vietnam government.
cái điều tôi muốn nói là phía chính quyền Việt Nam vi phạm nhân quyền rất là rõ rệt trong cái trường hợp của tôi. Thứ nhất là buộc tội tôi khủng bố, không đủ bằng chứng, đáng lẽ phải trả tự do cho tôi. Lý do bắt tôi ghép tội khủng bố là nhằm tôi với một người khác tên là Phạm Thị Anh Đào, tức là bên Mỹ này là Lisa Phạm. Và họ buộc tội cho tôi là đốt kho tang vật Đồng Nai, đặt bom ở sân bay Tân Sơn Nhất và các cái siêu thị Big Mac. Khi họ dùng cái thẻ nhà băng của tôi để check cái tiền mà cái cô đó gửi về Việt Nam cho cái nhóm thực hiện cái điều đó, thì không phải là tôi, lẽ ra họ phải thả tôi ra, nhưng mà họ không thả, họ lại ký một cái giấy tạm giam 4 tháng ngay liền tức khắc lúc đó với cái lý do là có dấu hiệu phạm tội, nhưng mà không nói tôi tội gì hết. Sau đó thì họ dùng những cái hình ảnh mà tôi hoạt động ở bên này với các em sinh viên, tại vì trước đây tôi có bảo trợ cho tất cả các cái hoạt động của các em sinh viên ở San Diego và tất cả các cái hội đoàn chỉ cần, thì họ nói là những cái hình ảnh đó họ chụp mũ cho tôi là phát triển lực lượng cho ông Đào Minh Quân một tổ chức của tiện bên này.
So when they arrested me, it was injustice. And when they found out about those errors, they should have released me, but they did not. There was a mistake, a misunderstanding. They mistook me with another person. Her name is Lisa Pham. And they tracked off the bank record that she funds money for people in Vietnam to destroy inventory of evidence, and they said that she wanted to bomb the Tanzania airport and some of the big supermarkets. But that was not from me, from my activities, wasn't it? So when they found out that that wasn't me, instead of releasing me, they signed an order that to temporarily detain me for 4 months. And they accused me, they defamed me as intentional to have activity against the government. And they use those pictures, those images, when I support and help the students in the U.S. Because when I was in the U.S., in San Diego, I do help a lot of organizations and the students from Vietnam and help them with different activities. And they use that as an accusation that I potentially could act against the government.
Một cái bằng chứng cụ thể là ngày 19 tháng 6 ở tại thành phố San Diego, cảnh sát địa phương có nhờ tôi làm một cái chương trình ngày quốc tế tị nạn. Thì tôi làm cái chương trình đó trong cái gói gọn mà các em sinh viên đã nghỉ hè và đi các nơi không vui đặc biệt. Tôi chỉ làm phải dùng những cái người lớn tuổi để làm cái lễ đó. Và cái nội dung buổi lễ là chỉ đưa ra những cái trang phục, phong tục, tập quán của người Việt Nam, hoàn toàn không có dính líu gì tới chính trị đó. Nhưng mà trong cái cáo buộc của họ khi đưa tôi ra tòa, họ nói đó là cái hoạt động tôi cổ suý phát triển lực lượng cho ông Đào Minh Quân. Bây giờ tôi vẫn còn giữ cái cáo trạng và cái kết luận điều tra đó. Đó là một cái hoàn toàn sai. Cái thứ hai là khi họ bắt một công dân Mỹ, họ đã vi phạm là không thông báo cho lãnh sự quán Mỹ biết trong vòng 72 giờ và cấm tuyệt không cho gia đình tôi biết tôi ở đâu. Trong 2 tháng rưỡi sau thì lãnh sự quán mới tiếp cận được với tôi. Một cái nữa là họ áp đặt là ngày mai lãnh sự quán gặp, thì ngày hôm nay họ đưa cho tôi một tờ giấy, trong đó có các cái mục mà tôi chỉ được đánh dấu vô 2 ô là cha mẹ, anh em, chồng, con ruột. Tất cả các cái ô bạn bè, báo chí, đài gì là không được tiếp cận. Nếu mà tôi vi phạm trong một cái điều đó thì họ sẽ cấm tôi vào lãnh sự.
So the facts that happened, it was on June the 19th when the San Diego Police Department they asked me to help them to organize a day, International Day of Refugee. And when I did that, it's summertime, so I wasn't able to get the students to participate. But instead, I have some senior and older adults to participate. But the reason for that is just we try to promote the Vietnamese culture and heritage with costume and with things that we talk about. Nothing about politics. But then they use that to accuse me that I'm promoting the activity against the government. And when they arrested me, they did not notify the U.S. Embassy that they arrested a U.S. citizen in Vietnam. They didn't do that, and they did not notify my family or anyone that I know about the arrest until 2.5 months later. They notified the U.S. consulate or embassy about the arrest, and they allowed, when the U.S. embassy and consulate were able to reach me, they make me to sign, to fill out some form. In that form, there's only 2 boxes I can check the people I can contact with, either my parents, my sibling, or my husband, my spouse only. That I'm not allowed to contact anyone of my friends or any press. They don't allow me. And if I don't fill out that form the way they wanted, I will not allow to meet with the embassy, the U.S. government representative.
Yes, cảm ơn chị Angel, cảm ơn chị Nana. I think that's all the time we have. You know that your time is short, and we very, very much appreciate you being here. So, thank you so much.
Will you please share with Angel how much I appreciate her sharing her story? I know how traumatic, I can't even imagine what she has lived through, but how much it means to hear it and be able to be an advocate advocate with Derek on her behalf.
Và rất là cảm ơn tất cả các cô và bà hiểu rất rõ những cái nỗi đau của cô trải qua để chia sẻ với mình. Bây giờ tôi muốn chia sẻ thêm một cái điều nữa là đối với những người còn lại ở trong tù, họ đã phải chịu rất là nhiều cái thiệt thòi và khổ sở trong đó. Hiện tại trong nhà tù bây giờ là đổi địa điểm giam giữ, đổi buồng giam và khảo sổ rất là khó gửi đồ đưa thăm nuôi, rất hạn chế. Cho nên là tôi muốn là các vị nên giúp đỡ sâu vào những cái chuyện đó để giảm bớt cái khổ đau cho những người còn lại.
One last thing I would like to share is that people who still get stuck in those prisons, they don't get treated like the decent human being. It's really bad, and they switch the cell. We don't know how to contact with those people, and there's a lot of difficulty to help them. So I would love to see the efforts from here, from you, to help those prisoners that got stuck in Vietnam. Thank you.
And today I'm here. I'm very glad that to have a chance to meet you and support from Derek. Anyway, what we would like to say is something that how can Vietnamese community support Derek for Democratic Party to advocate for the Vietnamese prisoners in Vietnam, and also their representative. Their family member get stopped, get harassed by communist government, and also the people from the refugee, political refugee asylum from the Thailand, harassed in Israel. So yeah, and how we're using freedom application. Everybody that we concern are in there. We also have a list. We would like to advocate for all the prisoners' conscience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because I'm a prisoner and also
Yes.
future family
Yes.
prisoner at the time.
This is the way we can make real change and keep the pressure from the U.S. government to make sure we do not forget these prisoners.
Yeah, we love to have the hearing someday, maybe next year, to send updates, make sure all the prisoners get released before American government do anything to do.
Get to work on it.
Yeah, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honored to meet you. Would you like to say a few words?
Something. I'm from Boston.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, but I teach, in the International Institute of Boston. I do a lot, for the American, in Boston too. My question is today, did you come in here to raise your voice regarding about the Vietnamese people, who are living in the Vietnam, to have the freedom for speaking, have freedom to, to practice the religion, or you come in here to back up, on a candidate, Mr. Derek?
Both of those things.
You're both?
They're both, because what we see in Derek is someone
Yeah.
who is going to be an advocate for exactly what we want. A
Yeah.
stronger democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, making sure we have human rights, freedom to organize.
Yes.
So that's why I'm here, because
Thank you.
Derek invited me to hear from this critical community as we are facing some of those threats in our own country to democracy.
Thank you.
So these are both of our goals.
Okay, thank you. I was in Boston, and the reason, I follow, activity of the congressman and the congresswoman, in Western DC. Did you ever contact the Michelle still? Did you have bring up any issue regarding the Vietnamese community in this place or all over this country? Or you can regarding about the people, the so-called has been harassed in the Vietnam. You
have a relationship with Michelle Steele. She has consistently been come home to California and said she's moderate and a voice for you, but I have not seen that in her work. And I have seen her work against issues that we care very much about here and democracy here. So, you know, the work that I have done with the Vietnamese community in Massachusetts, which is strong, has really been with my fellow delegation members and not with Michelle Steele. But she has been a consistent vote for the most extreme parts, the authoritarian parts of the Republican Party. And she falls in line with them. And one of the reasons I'm such a staunch supporter of Derek is we need people to be true voices for this community and to actually come and push solutions, foreign policy and domestic policy, so I don't say that as number two in the Democratic caucus, I have no relationship.
Thank you.
So anh Đoàn Trọng,
my last one before I leave. We want to hear your voice, you know, so we can easy to make a decision on the 5th of November. Why should we go to the direction or we go to Michelle Steele?
Derek Trần, you know, is part of this community. And not only is he part of this community, but he is outreaching to the highest leadership in Washington to say, I'm going to be a voice. We will be a voice for all members, Vietnamese or not. But particularly, he knows the story of being a refugee. He knows the story of what it means to leave behind a country you love because you cannot live there freely. And that is so part of who Derek is. And there is an opportunity in this district on November 5th to vote for someone to be your voice in those corridors of power, to be at the leadership table through the relationships that we have and that he will have, to make sure that we are working together to learn from the history of Vietnamese Americans and to make a future that is worthy of your children. And that is why I'm here, why I came from Boston out to be specifically in this district and specifically to hear from all of you. And that's the kind of work and commitment that Derek has made to this community. And he will bring that same sort of commitment to every one of the people in this district.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
This year, I have one question. I belong from SBTN, the largest Vietnamese channel in Vietnamese community. I have one question. If Derek Trần get elected for this election, do you think his voice will be lonely in Congress?
No. And that's exactly why I'm here, to assure you that he is already speaking and influencing how we think and see and appreciate the Vietnamese community. So he may be our only Vietnamese American in Congress, but he will not be a lonely voice because Derek is excellent at building coalitions. He is excellent at keeping his focus on community and making sure that his voice will be heard. And so we already see that in him, which is why we are so supportive of his race and why it's so important for me to be here at his invitation to make sure that we are bringing your stories and your vision for the future for both Vietnam and the United States to Congress. And that's why I'm so excited about his candidacy.
Thank you. To close, I want to just say thank you so much for this opportunity of coming out here and really educating and sharing your stories with myself. As a son of refugees, I hear these stories and I know this, and there's no better time for us to have representation for our community than now. So I thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank Whip Clark so much for her taking her time She didn't get to eat, so I'm not going to be able to build a strong coalition with her, but I'm sure her staff took care of her, so she has food. But thank you, Whip Clark, for listening to the people of my community. Thank you for being here for us. Thank you for being here for me. I truly appreciate your leadership, and thank you. Thank you.
Well, Derek, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for coming and sharing your stories and sharing what you have been through and the goals and future that we need to build together. And I'm so grateful that you invited me, and we so look forward to Derek Trần being that voice and being able to work to bring Congress to further our work together to make sure that we do not forget these prisoners in Vietnam, and that our work for them can also help and strengthen our domestic commitment to freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to organize. So I'm so grateful to be able to meet you. This will not be the last time you see me. Now I am hooked.
Yes,
so
please come back.
Thank you.
Let me walk out. I'll be right back.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.